GM. It's Friday, August 5th. A lot has happened in the NFT world in the past 24 hours. We'll go over it. There's Moonbirds, have some CC0 going on. We have the Tiffany's drop that went through today. More on that today. All right, Tyler. So it's been an eventful morning. You had mentioned right before we hopped on, like there's a lot going on, and it's somewhat hard to keep up with. And it's funny because we shifted the show to Friday this week, and then so much has happened in the last 24 hours. I even had mentioned to you that like going into Thursday's show, like as of Wednesday night, the biggest story of the week was around Solana. There were, well, I guess a couple things with Solana. Magic Eden added Ethereum as well, but there was this massive exploit of more than $5 million that got drained from wallets. And then it's almost as if people forgot that even happened at this point. Moonbirds came out yesterday with a CC0 announcement. That was pretty big. Tiffany's had their 30th drop that we talked about on Monday. That already went through. So how are you thinking right now? It's the end of the week. It's been kind of a wild week.
My head's absolutely spinning. We're at grandma's house for the long weekend. I'm trying to chase my kids around and stay on top of all this news. And it's headline after headline the last few days. The Solana exploit that you talked about at the beginning feels like it's a month ago.
Yeah.
At this point in time. So much has happened. We've got major institutions like BlackRock setting up institutional investing. We've got another $1 billion crypto hedge fund launching. In the NFT space, we've got Moonbirds going CC0. We've had Solana Ethereum. There's just been nonstop headlines this week.
Yeah.
The NFTiff drop, which we thought was going to be the showstopper, is now like barely a top 5 headline of the week.
Yeah, and also like Instagram NFTs. There's been some more announcements around that. Mark Zuckerberg put out an Instagram post yesterday from his old Little League days and talked about how they're going to be integrating NFTs with Coinbase and Dapper, which it's funny, like the people that are deep into NFTs consider those two as like sort of lower down the totem pole on NFTs. But there's that going on. We also had DraftKings did some of their Rainmakers drop yesterday, leading up into the NFL season. That was pretty successful as far as like them selling out. And so, yeah, let's look a little into some of this now. So go ahead.
Yeah, Lou, real quick, just kind of breaking. You led with the Facebook news. NFTs appear to be live on Instagram.
Yeah.
This is from Giancarlo. I hadn't noticed. I'm not a super active Instagram user. I have a profile. Digital collectibles here.
Yeah.
In this Instagram snapshot. And then their integration with Coinbase Wallet plus Dapper, Flow NFTs are going to be supported. Big week for the Flow blockchain for sure. But you mentioned it. Instagram's got 2 billion users. Facebook has 3 billion. So we have to start rooting for Meta and Instagram. I know they've been kind of like the evil, corporate Web 2 boss and all this, but onboarding, if we want to onboard the next wave, which we clearly need for anyone who's tracking liquidity in the NFT market, we're going to need their help.
Yeah, and this is something we're going to be working on, like sort of an intro to on Instagram NFTs over at Lucky Trader. So a little more details as they come out, as far as like how to connect a wallet on there, just basic guide stuff on Instagram, because this is a big deal. Like we have seen it implemented on Twitter for a while with the hexagons, but moving to other social media platforms, like social media is a huge way that people are getting information, huge way that people are interacting online. So, Instagram is one of the biggest social media platforms in the entire world. In that Zuckerberg post, he said it's bringing, they're going to be live in over 100 different countries because
Yep.
of all of the reach with Instagram. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes down, because it's funny connecting to Coinbase and Dapper, but Coinbase, their NFT platform, had not the best as far as we expected people to get onboarded through there, and they've just kind of been mostly a flop so far. But so not going to rule that out with this Instagram stuff, because from our experience and my experience using Instagram from the Lucky Trader account is people on there are not really fans of NFTs. So that's going to be one thing that'll be interesting to watch, like how much pushback this has. So something to watch for.
I agree. Like the NFT space on Instagram that exists is almost completely separate and distinct from what's on Twitter. Like the Venn diagram has very little overlap right now, but we need to build a bigger overlap.
Yeah, and because of how big Instagram is, there's way more of the scams have been through Instagram. So I think a lot of people just have that sort of bad taste in their mouth. So now if we look at the project rankings page, Lucky Trader, over the past week, it's pretty similar to the last time we looked at this. A couple different ones that have popped up, but what's your thoughts here? Because now all of a sudden Moonbirds is back in because of this crazy volume in the past 24 hours, but I guess even 12 hours. But what's your thoughts on the project rankings here?
I almost want to switch to we typically start and look at the weekly page. I just want to switch to the daily page just to show, I think it kind of tells a better story of everything that's happening live right now in the market. And I think some of the percentages may be off, but we are seeing a massive influx in volume flooding the Moonbirds ecosystem and project right now. Over 600 ETH traded in the last day. That's like a good week for Moonbirds over the last 4 to 6 weeks or so. And it's all stemming from this massive announcement from Kevin Rose and team yesterday afternoon that they are going CC0. I see a question here from Jason. Has it already converted?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know the technicalities of that.
Yeah, they announced it in the tweet yesterday. There will be a Spaces, I think it's at 3 Eastern today, where they will go over a lot of the information. I'm interested to see how many people are at that one. I feel like that's going to be one of the bigger, like, high attendance rate. It's also like a Friday, but yeah, usually they get a few hundred people at that Spaces. Wouldn't be surprised if we see thousands at it, because people, this is sort of where all the eyes are right now on Moonbirds, and this is a attention market. As Jason is asking, like, there's a couple of different ways I could answer that. One way is if you want to be selling, the liquidity is there right now. So if you make the decision that you want to sell, it's more likely that you can actually sell it currently because the eyes are on it, versus like 2 days ago, you could list it for 17 and it's probably up for like 6 hours and no one touches it. But here, if you listed it for 17 right now, it could go within an hour, because the people who are trying to buy this dip are out. And I mean, we look at that lump at the end there. Like, there's way more sales that are happening in the past since that announcement, versus the prior few days, prior weeks. It's one of those things where since the silver nest happened, look at those little gaps in there. Like, it can go days where there's not even 3 sales of Moonbirds, and we saw it's almost 40 in the past 18 hours or so.
Yeah,
so
64 on the day.
If it's something that you made up your mind to list and sell, I have become more, what's the word? I've been burned by this multiple times at this point. So one thing I've learned from cases like this is the people that want out right away are going to list and run to the bottom. So that's where we saw it go dip down to 15. If you waited, you could have gotten 2 more ETH out of it. So I am of the personal thought that selling right now is potentially selling at the bottom, because this is where people that are trying to get out are. So they're listing and they're just undercutting each other because they're trying to get out as fast as possible. But what's your thoughts here? Because we were talking about this before, where the reaction is somewhat bullish, that there were so many people that were ready to buy at 50 and 16 here.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack on this, and I've got a lot of thoughts. First, to address Jason's question, should I sell? I mean, I don't think anyone should be making a rash decision. Like, unless you've already made up your mind, kind of headed into this one way or the other about how long you want to hold on to your Moonbird, I would say wait and just let and kind of see how the market reacts to this and plays out. I mean, look at the folks who got into panic or sold their birds off in a tantrum this morning because they weren't happy with the announcement. And we see a clump of sales under 15 here. Yeah. This is at 13.6. The 4 is back to 17.3. They lost out on 4 ETH, in the matter of 2 hours because of impatience and panicking. So certainly that's not the right reaction. Yeah. I mean, if we zoom out the 30-day trend, clearly, I mean, it's not great that, it's been a slow trickle down. We were hanging around, 20 to 30 range ahead of Silver Nest. Silver Nest and Oddities disappointed. It fell down to the 20 range, kind of chopping around there. But I like this price action. I think it's bullish for this ecosystem. This has been traditionally a very illiquid market, and it has been extremely liquid in the 15 to 16 ETH range. So there is clearly a price point where this market loves Moonbirds. And that was refreshing to see, because we haven't seen this level of action on this project since nesting started, really. Yeah. Put Carson's fund sweep aside, right? Like, this is probably the biggest day of action or close that we've had. So clearly there's some market demand for this. You and I were talking before the show. Clone X, Azuki are at very approachable price points right now. Like, they've kind of slowly sunk to 8, 9. We're not seeing that flurry of attention and volume on those projects. So clearly there's something else about Moonbirds that people are attracted to.
Yeah.
So I think that's been bullish.
Yeah, to your point there, it's really interesting to me, and I wasn't really thinking of this until we kind of hopped on here. But I mean, these people have had multiple weeks where they could have used 16 ETH to buy 2 Clone X, which at that price point, like, buying 2 Clone X does sound kind of appealing. There's Azuki and Doodles like in that range, but instead they're choosing to buy Moonbirds because they think this is a discounted price. I think that speaks to it a little bit. One thing that Ghost of Grotto is saying here, and I agree with, he's saying, I feel like the negativity stems more from the community feeling blindsided than the actual CC0 aspect. Weird, abrupt announcement. So first, let me just quickly say, like, the announcement basically said, in the past, you've had full commercial rights to your NFT. Now it's more public domain. And so I think the part that people felt blindsided about was it had always been this way with Moonbirds, like the full commercial rights. Like, that's been a reason why people were bullish on it long term. That's been a reason why people were buying it initially. I personally didn't buy it for those reasons. There are people that probably bought it for those reasons. Second part of it, this wasn't put to a community vote. It kind of just got announced. Like, it wasn't the type of thing where, oh, it sounds like we might be doing this in the future. They just sort of announced it. They didn't announce it during this spaces that was already planned for Friday. So it's not just that they are switching it to CC0 and people don't like CC0. It's the way that they did it that I think people are a little more angry about. So from that side of it, do you think the way they handled it was wrong?
Absolutely. Right. And it's kind of hard to even argue for their side.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of puts into question, Kevin Rose's thought process, and I'm going to put that aside and come back to it for now. But to Ghost of Greg Oden's point here, I mean, just this tweet is from July 5th that I'm showing right now. Owning a Moonbird unlocks a host of possibilities, including commercial rights, and they're applauding Drew Barman and Rickhouse Dow for essentially having created a gin product based on their Moonbird and the IP of that Moonbird. That was on July 25th. It's now 10 days later, and is this still possible? Yes, but would they go through the effort now? I think that's more in question. We've seen the tweets from folks like Lacaz. He's a famous Glitchbird holder. Famous is a loose term, but he's a Glitchbird holder. He tweeted today that he lost out on a potential 6-figure licensing deal because of this. And I mean, having blindsided the community, not even like giving hints that this could be coming, right? Or a better way putting it out to a community vote. Even a community vote, I don't love, right? I'm not a huge fan of DAOs and how they operate in this space. And it's a small percent of the market who would actually use the licensing, and they shouldn't really be outvoted by essentially a silent majority who wouldn't use them anyway. But there's so many ways they could have done this better. Now, Kevin Rose has hired Ryan Carson as CCO. Terrible decision. Just objectively terrible. The guy is just showing his incompetence on a weekly basis. And now they made this decision, which is also objectively they went about it a bad way. Like, regardless of the outcome, and CCO is good or not, their process is bad. So that's 2 big mistakes. And I don't know, NFT Jesus, the light is not shining as brightly as it was a few months ago.
Yeah, it's the type of thing that I was explaining this to someone else, that anyone that had maybe 1 foot out the door, this is going to put them over that line. Like, there are already people that were unhappy because of the silver nest, unhappy because of just the fact that a lot of these things in the future have a lot of question marks, unhappy because of how oddities came out. Oddities are also switching to the CCO. We didn't really mention that yet, but like that, less surprising to me. Like, I almost think anything Gremlin is going to be CCO, because that's sort of his thing. But that's neither here nor there. I think that's part of it. Like what you're saying is there's just been multiple. It's hard to like say multiple strikes because in strike world you only get 3, but that's what's sort of getting to right now. And one reason why I had unnested my bird was I was behind on the streak, and my concern now is when this gold nest comes out, like everyone is it's under such high scrutiny. Every single one of the announcements that are made by the proof ecosystem. And so to me, I didn't want to be a week behind and have that concern that now that I'm a week behind and there's a bad announcement or people take it poorly, then it's like, well, do I want to wait the week to get this next level? So I've sort of been at this point personally where I'm trying to it's tough because I want to be nested at times that you might need to be nested, but at the same time it's like the flexibility is nice. We've seen there's still under 200 that are listed, which I think is still a decent point of view. Like, still people want to be nested, and what's that say, 192 listed. I think it was around 140 or so earlier in the week. So a decent amount have been added to that list. That might mean that having gold rewards is going to be a bigger deal moving forward, because that's another 50 people that have just taken 2 weeks or so behind on their reward level. So it's going to start separating the people that are in it like actually long term, as in like years, because these nesting reward streaks are really going to show people that when all of these things keep coming up, they're still holding on. They're still in the nest. So I feel like that's one positive if you've been nested this whole time. But yeah, it's tough. Like Adri's saying, thank God I sold at 30. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are happy that they sold above 20, because right now, like, to me, it's hard to get the morale back to a point that the floor just goes back up to 30 or 25. Other bright point is Ethereum's back to 1700. So it is a little nicer, even though in ETH terms it went down. The ETH price has gone up in the last couple weeks, so that part of it, I don't know if that makes too much of a difference, but
I'm sure to some,
yeah,
just maybe a few closing thoughts, and then we can
yeah,
move on. I think this is still a pretty small minority of the holder base that's making all this noise right now, right? We still
and
only have
non-holders.
2% of the birds are listed. That's it. You mentioned the scrutiny on the project, and rightfully so. I mean, anyone who's purchasing a PFP NFT for 17 ETH, that's a high entry price. Like, there should be scrutiny on that. And gone are the days when you could just fire off 17 ETH at PFP projects and just feel super comfortable, just because the liquidity in this market just isn't there. So you have to have more scrutiny. And events like this are bigger impact. Jason did ask in the comments, explain what's positive about CC0. I think that the positive case is that anyone can use your NFT. Well, a lot of people view that as positive. Like, let's say,
free marketing.
Yeah, it's free marketing. There's ways now for 1,000 people on Instagram have your Moonbird as their PFP. Well, now your outreach just got significantly higher, and you still own the underlying asset, right? Like, they own,
Right.
like, they have a copy. It's fake. It's worthless, right? You still have the valuable one. And there's a thesis that attention accumulates over time, right? And it's a little tricky because most of the infamous CC0 projects so far have struggled from a market standpoint.
Yeah.
Like Toads, MFers. Nouns is kind of the exception right now. So I think people are kind of lumping it into that. But I don't know. Overall, I don't really have a strong opinion right now on if it's being CC0 is good or bad for the product. I'm not a person who was going to use the licensing rights, so that piece didn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I don't think too many people were planning on doing that, especially like with the Moonbird. But it's just the idea that you have the potential to, that I think is getting to people. There's all these ape holders that are coming out and complaining about it, and it's like, how many of those ape holders are going to do anything with it? I saw one of the comments that I thought was super interesting. It was off of one of Jimmy.eth posts. So he infamously, like, they're doing the kingship stuff, and Ryder Ribs uses Jimmy's PFP. And so they're like, does it matter? CC0, like, he's literally using your PFP and he still is using it and he still can use it. And so it's just kind of interesting from the standpoint of like right click savers, that does it change all that much?
Yeah.
How many people were going to be using this? There's that side of it, but I definitely think that's why it goes back to Greg Owen's point, that it's mostly because of how they did it, how they went about doing it, was the issue here. So we'll see. I'll probably listen in on that Spaces.
It's a big one.
Maybe I should switch over to like one of the cosmic Moonbird PFPs for it. Like, it would be fun. Wouldn't that be funny if just like everyone had the same PFP in that?
Or switch to Kevin's, right?
Oh, that's what we should do. I should send that in my group chat. Let's just all switch to Kevin's PFP and do it. That'd be funny. So cool. The other big story from today is Tiffany's. The Tiffany Pendants, they dropped. The 100 went like right away. I don't know if you want to call it like the private sale of the first 100 went right away. There was only a few secondary sales on it. Deepak was talking about how can you sell this? You're one of the first 100. And I think what's been proven now, since the floor is already under it. It's so weird to me, but we talked about like flippers right on Monday, and flippers came out. Like, this is proof right here that people thought they would be able to buy this for 30 and sell it for more. And they're coming to the realization that the people that wanted this probably already bought it and aren't going to buy it off of you. So what's your thoughts here on how this drop went down? Because it sold out in like minutes, and then the price is lower. So if you missed out on the drop, you could buy it for a discount right now if you wanted the actual pendant.
Yeah, Tiffany's is on sale. Bespoke custom Tiffany's jewelry on sale right now. That's not too common in the luxury brand space. But yeah, this has been a little bit anticlimactic. I have a few thoughts on why it could have happened. So they did the pre-sale. They let essentially 100 of Deepak's friends or the OG punk holders or punks who had like great aesthetic punks kind of get in early. It was really weird that they had that leak, that essentially a few of the early pre-sale folks started listing. And I was very surprised by that. Deepak kind of made a big statement by buying the first listing for 55 ETH. Well, guess what? More listings creeped in at 40, then 38. And then it was a bad sign. I think it was overnight, a 31 ETH bid got accepted. So kind of right there, I think I took that as a bad sign. I think the punk owners who are wealthy enough to go after an NFT like this and luxury jewelry like this are also sharp enough to kind of read the room and how this drop was pending. And the fact that it was open to the public to participate, like that was a mistake. Like there's no reason that the public should have been allowed at least first access to that.
For 150. The 150 too, yeah.
Right. Like, for the 150 that were left for the public sale today, like it should have, punk owner should have at least had an hour head start, right? So I think that was a mistake. The fact that there was only a 1 week window to claim, I think that was in a lot of people's heads, because this NFT essentially becomes worthless, not totally worthless, but we're unclear of the value of it once this claim window where you can convert to your physical pendant ends, and that's going to be in a week. Here's my hot take. I think there's still more demand for this NFT. I think there's some sharp punk owners who realize some flippers got into this. They're going to hold the line, see how low this thing
Try
goes.
to buy it like 20, and then 25.
I think we'll see some buy volume at some point, maybe closer to the claim window. But man, these flippers are sweating right now, and it goes to the point. Put up 30 ETH to maybe get, like, what was your maximum upside is 10 ETH probably.
Couple, yeah.
And your more average outcome is 1 to 2 ETH, if not taking a loss like that. That's too much to risk. You gotta weigh the risk reward calculus there.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting how this went down, because we sort of talked about it where they don't have a royalty fee involved. Like, I wonder if they had some agreement with OpenSea on this, because there was no royalty involved. A week after the redemption window is closed, like, why did they even do an NFT? Like, I think it's for publicity side, but it's kind of weird, the whole scenario on like why it's an NFT and only for a week. It's almost like the whole point of NFTs in this scenario is if you don't redeem in that window, like, you should have a reason that you can still sell the NFT later on. If it's not claimed, like, then what happens with it? But the whole the first 100 of these was effectively, like you said, private. Like, you had to have some sort of DM conversation with Deepak, I believe. But couldn't he have seen, like, there was more demand than the 100 for that?
Yes.
For the initial 100. So, like, I don't understand why the whole 250 didn't just happen that way. And if there weren't 250 demanded in that, then put the rest to public. Because if you wanted this, if you're someone that's willing to spend 30 ETH on something like this, then you're probably not buying it to resell it anyway. So that's why do you need the NFT? But then you're also buying it, you just need one. Like, you're not going to get more than one either. Like, maybe some people wanted multiple because they have multiple punks, but I don't know. To me, it's kind of weird, the mechanics that have been around it.
Mm-hmm.
If they just wanted to sell out, yes, this was the way to do it because you have all this demand. You're guaranteeing 150 people are going to buy because the first 100 went very quickly and smoothly. There were even some secondary sales over 50. So that made it a lock to sell out 250 of them. So maybe if that was the goal. But yeah, it's just kind of it's interesting how this has gone down. And I think we've seen like that fifth one across was purchased for 31 and it's listed for 30.4. And that is more likely a bot that was like sending offers. Some of these have revealed, so to speak. Do you know what the deal is with that? Like, or were those the first 100 look like that? Is that just what it was?
That's a good question. I don't.
That kind of seems like
They
it.
definitely
That
have
one says
top
50.
100 serials. I don't know if they did
Yeah.
something. Oh, this is a 177, so that would have been in today's batch.
Yeah.
I wonder if that means they've already done the claim,
Redemption.
which is very possible. It's strange to see a redeemed one listed for sale. I mean, of course, it's at a meme price of 69, and I think most would be okay with that sale.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the rhetoric out there is that does Tiffany's even care? They got their money on primary. They sold it out. I think they care somewhat. I still view this as overall. I think this is bullish. This is a huge brand getting in to the NFT space, combining physical luxury goods with NFTs. Could they have done the mechanics better? Absolutely. But it's growing pains, right? Like we're literally top of the first inning on this stuff, and using NFTs as a mechanism for these, it's going to get better. So I don't know. I still feel good about it. I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping this was going to be the catalyst for punks, man. It looked like it was going to be early in the week.
Yeah.
They creeped up to 75, then up to 77, and that gap with the apes was closed to 4 ETH, but now they're back to 75, and this is kind of still kind of a short-term disappointing outcome. So I don't know.
Yeah, let's look at that real quick on the punks because there was, I don't know if you saw this, but there were someone went on an offer spree on high-end Bored Ape Yacht Club and Mega Mutants yesterday. I think put an offer on all of the Mega Mutants at 666, and then had at least one of the gold apes at 1,000. So is that a listed? Oh, that's a bid. Okay.
These are bids. Yeah.
So yeah, people are still out there bidding for punks as they sort of always do, but I think there are some people that, like you said, probably thought this was going to be a catalyst to rise, and now are seeing that didn't happen, so are starting to dip the floor a little bit again, and it's back under 75. This is, I mean, we talked about earlier in the week on if you're going to get a pendant, you probably want one of the more aesthetically pleasing ones, like that second one in there. Like, would you want a pendant of that one? I don't know.
I was just going to say, I don't want a pendant of the entire bottom 2 rows. So
Yeah,
actually, this might
not.
be a good new adjective for the punk floor. Like, these are non-pendant punks.
Non-pendants. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like the ones that are just, I don't even want to call them plain, but if they don't have like different colored hair or hats, like
this one's
multiple
cool.
different colors in there,
Yeah,
I think would just be more appealing on a pendant. If it's all like one or two, like, I mean, some of these are just, if you have a punk and it's your identity, like, I guess, but there's a reason why they're listing them at these prices, because it's not like they're forever punk. So I think that's part of it as well. But yeah, if in a week when there's no more claim, I think it'll be interesting to watch what happens with these, because right now, if you're buying one of these at floor, your true cost is like 105 ETH, right? Because if you want the pendant, I think anyone that would want a pendant already has a punk. That's sort of my current take. Like, there's no reason to buy one to then do the pendant at this point, especially now that it's already sold out. So that'll be interesting to watch. It did get close to Bored Apes, and now it's separated to
only about 2
closer
dozen
again.
So there's about 2 dozen listings, roughly.
below Bored Ape.
Yeah, I think the Bored Apes are around like 82. So I'm seeing 28, 30 or so.
Mm-hmm.
They're close. On my August 15th over under flipping day.
Still live.
It's live.
It looked a lot more live a few days ago though, when they got it was what 78, 81 or something like that.
Yeah,
Like it did get close.
I was ready to hit the under.
So cool, yeah. And then a couple of the other things we want to touch on, more of these like current markets. Should we do Ledger first?
Mm-hmm.
So Ledger, they made an announcement about their upcoming drop is going to be next week for Ledger Pass holders. I think it went from what, like 0.55 or so, and now it's at 0.7 of a floor. So people did buy on the news. They leaked that they were going to make an announcement, and then they made an announcement. But have they put all of the drop mechanics out? I don't think so. Right?
I don't even. So I believe the announcement was just on the Rug Radio show with Mando and OSF yesterday morning. And I wasn't listening in. I got the feedback from one of our friends in the LT group that they announced that the marketplace was supposed to be coming next week, and along with potentially the first project drop. So I'm not 100% sure on the details for that project, but we think at least the Ledger marketplace is coming. Which this Ledger NFT is the Market Pass Genesis Edition. This is your access pass to that marketplace for anyone who was a little unclear what this NFT was for. Yeah. Well, then this pre-mint sign up was kind of circulating. This Brick X Ledger sign up for this Brick project. So went over to their Twitter, and this is a project that's now being speculated to be the Genesis project for Ledger. And I haven't had a chance to really dive in on Brick. I'll do that once a little bit more is known, if this is actually confirmed as kind of coming out next week. But there seems to be some hype around this. They've already picked up at least 2,000 followers since I found them yesterday. From those who tuned into the Rug Radio, they were pretty impressed with the Ledger team. It seemed like sharp folks. So this is going to be a big drop. Anytime there's a first drop for a marketplace or an access pass, I think you have to pay attention to it. So this might be the spotlight for next week.
Yeah, this will be interesting. Hopefully we get more information over the weekend, or a true leak happens. I don't know if you want to call it that, but if it's more of a confirmation that this is the case. So it'll be interesting to see, because most people, I mean, they have, over 5-digit followers. So a decent amount of people already had heard of this project. I do kind of like the artwork. It is kind of cool. It's like cartoon show basically. And they have a little episode 1 right there that we're showing on screen right now. He's like at a concert, but yeah, to be like, I think that could be a decent, like, and the cute narrative. Not really something that we've seen before, like bricks. I don't really know if we've seen something specifically like that, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So do you need a Ledger Pass to sign up for that pre-mint?
Yes. Well, so I don't have the details because I've already signed up for it, but yeah, I want to say you had to have a Ledger Pass, and you also had to have like 0.13. You can follow Brick on Twitter. Just kind of like the basic pre-mint requirements.
So I mean, even if it's not the Genesis drop, like
it's common.
That drop is connected to holding a Ledger Pass and pre-mint. So probably a good idea if you have it to just sign up for it anyway.
So for those tuning in, I think what's the most intriguing about this is it feels like we've got some inside info, because they haven't announced it from their Twitter, which is typically where
by listening to Spaces, you mean?
Right. So you had to have listened to the Spaces. Sorry, inside info is definitely not the correct term. We have some information that has not been published on Twitter yet from Ledger. We've seen the market respond. It went from 0.75 at peak. It's pulled back a little bit. It's around 0.7 right now. But curious NFA, but I think we'll see some Ledger action this weekend. And once they make a formal announcement, we'll definitely see some action.
Yeah. And it's up to 0.7. It's not It's not super cheap or anything, but
Sure.
we saw with pre-mint pass that got up to like 3 ETH when it was really pumping, and part of that was when they announced the Moonbirds raffle. So
Yep.
if you think this brick project will have, say, a 0.25 floor, and that's not priced in yet, then ledger floor should be closer to 1, like that sort of thing. So that's gonna be part of it. Like if they make an announcement, there's not tons of other stuff going on as far as like competition to that being an announcement. Um, there's that. The other one that we'll talk about is potatoes, because they made a little bit of an announcement that moved the floor up as well. Unfortunately, they did this upside down font, which we hate, but decipher it for us.
Yeah, so this was their announcement yesterday afternoon, 1:00. Essentially, they're launching their Grow to Win, which is their staking version for the Potatoes project. They're going to launch the website, I want to say today, and then the growing mechanism is going to be live next week. And then they had their spaces today. They've started releasing a little bit more information, a few important details. They started sharing, so they're going to be running essentially raffles called draws each week as a part of the staking mechanism, where you get tickets by staking in your prize. Well, they've given us a hint at what these prizes are going to be.
Yeah.
And they're saying the first draw is going to be 2 MVPs. You're the real MVP. It's like the gold standard in the meme land ecosystem. They're like 33 ETH floor, 2 of those, and 10 potatoes. It's one of the biggest prizes, one of the biggest singular prizes I've ever seen in an NFT raffle. Right? Like I think we saw one of the guys did like a punk, essentially a punk raffle NFT last year.
Yeah.
So that
But
might
like
go down
officially
as the biggest
from a project. Like
right.
I'm trying to think if Moonbirds ever like gave a Moonbird away in a raffle. I'm not sure if they ever did that. Oh man, like what if they did that in their silver nest? Like, oh yeah, the fanny packs, but also we're giving one of these Moonbirds away if you're nested. Like, why didn't they just do something like that? But yeah, that's why a lot of people we talked about this a little on Monday. If this was a possibility, like how good the reward is. Like a lot of these raffles tend to have somewhat of weak rewards. I think the closest we've seen to this is like Pixelvault does their core meta heroes that have like an 80th floor, but those are pretty illiquid. Like there's not a huge demand to buy them at the higher floor, but they do give those away in raffles. But yeah, this is a pretty big prize. Like I'm not sure who's buying those MVPs at 30 ETH, but there are people that are doing it. So like it would be a pretty dope prize. The 10 potatoes now is about 15 plus ETH. Did it say like is there a range of like the rarities?
So we're
That's
seeing
gonna be part of it.
about a sale a day.
Yeah.
So it's not super liquid, but it's there, and there's a standing 27 offer.
But people, it's also like a guarantee for 2 of the meme land mints, right?
Yes. So then you would have 4
Yeah.
of the meme land captains plus 10 potatoes, which this isn't exact math, but we think there's 5,000 memeless spots open. There's 10,000 potatoes. I think just rough back of the napkin, you can assume a 50% shot at getting a memeless spot if you stake the whole time. So that's a part of it. I think what's also so brilliant about this, and of course I'm a little biased. I'm a big potatoes holder, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. I love how they're doing this like evolution feature along with their staking. So when you first log into the site and stake, you get to your first stage of evolution. So the what is currently these, the tree growing from shit, which is what people has gotten some fun just based on the image alone. It's going to turn into a potato, and then each week you're going to get another trait. And they've come out and said that any potato can get a rare trait at each stage of evolution. the reason I love that is it gives extra value and incentive for holding floor NFTs. So like what
Yeah.
we're showing right now are just the stone floor stage 1 potatoes. Well, guess what? When those grow, if they get staked, every one of those has an equal shot at getting one of the rarest traits. Which is it going to go to the highest sale of 15 to 18? Maybe not, but I think it's going to trade over floor. So there's going to be some upside there, which I love. I mean, who's
I
not going
think
to stake
on
these
the other
things?
side of that, though, like it kind of dings the ones that are currently rare. I think I saw one of the rainbows sold for in the like 2.3 yesterday or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
previously that had been considered like a decent one to get. But now, like, unless you have one of these super rares, like say that cosmic that gets the most common of the next set. Um, but then all like what if only one of those gets a common trait on the next one? Then all of a sudden you just spent all this ETH, say like 15 ETH on one of them, and its value like just cut in half. That's like the risk of buying a super rare now. So do you think that they hurt the current rares by doing that?
I don't. So like, let's use Moonbirds as an analogy. I think the way that I'm looking at this is like you've got these are essentially like the skin or the body traits,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those are now out. Cosmic is the most elite, right? And then we've got, I actually don't know all of them. I don't know what this one is, the black and white. And then we've got the golds, we've got the robots down the line, right? So
I
on
think
and
it's
so
yin
forth.
yang. I think that's what they
Yin
call
yang.
it. Yeah.
So those are already set up, and with set rarities, those are going to be elite. Now we're getting into like the head trait. So for Moonbirds, the Grail heads, the Squiggles heads, the Grimplin heads were the most elite and commanded a premium, regardless of their body type. I think that's what we're going to see here. So I don't really think previous rares are hurt. I think it only boosts other sets. But this is new. We're going to see how it plays out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see it. Like one thing that we talked about, like there's not a lot of projects that people like the newer projects that people are super positive on, but this is one of them. I think this and Ledger are two of the somewhat bright points that we've seen of late on new projects. Um, they're doing a lot here. Like there's a lot going on. This multiple reveal process is kind of spreading out it's instead of waiting 2 months for a reveal like Oddities did, reveal slowly over the 2 months if that's how long it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily saying it will be, but yeah, like to that one's point, um, as they're showing, like it changes each time.
Mm-hmm.
So if what you're saying is true on like that being a base, right? Like this is what it looks like right now, but like say the potato in the astronaut helmet is rainbow colored because that was the previous trait. Like there's probably still going to be aesthetically rare like looks to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll probably be a big benefit. Not sure how that sign thing is gonna go, but yeah, I think it's cool. They're doing something that not many projects do with this evolution. And the staking, I think, is going to generally staking helps floors.
Mm-hmm.
But also like they're giving a reason for you to stake. Sometimes these projects stake for tokens that then end up being useless or there's no reason to be using them. So I think the way that they're doing the raffle is people are going to be a little more excited to stake because they see that upside of winning the raffle versus a lot of raffles are usually, you just get another NFT, and what if the NFT by then is less price than you paid for it, and like that whole thing. So yeah, I was
Right.
pretty excited to see those were what they chose for the potential prizes there. So, anything else on potatoes before we switch off?
No, they're just doing a masterful job of keeping attention. Like each week, I'm excited to see like what's going to be the update from me mining the potatoes,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they've got a command of that. So kudos to them. But yeah, we can move on.
Cool. The other one we talked about art blocks a little bit here. There was a drop earlier today, I believe, but this is the next curated that we're looking at here, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of this one? I have some thoughts on it, but it's called "Fake It Till You Make It" by Maya Man. It's going to be on the 10th, which is what's that, Wednesday of next
Yes.
week, and there's going to be 700 of them. So, what's your thoughts on this for the next curated drop?
Oh man, I spent a good chunk of yesterday in Block Talk in the Art Blocks Discord, just kind of lurking and just reading the reactions of folks. It was fairly split. Half of the group just seemingly just hated it right off the bat. Like, how did this get past the curated board? This is just essentially phrasing with a pink background. It's Instagram art. Apparently Maya had actually done kind of a small previous exhibit with similar art style, so that got flooded a little bit. She was in the Discord herself, kind of defending the product, so it actually got a bit awkward there. But then there's of course a set of the diehard collectors who think it's innovative and different, and it shows how the Art Blocks curated board is ready to branch out into different artistic styles. And one, from a concept level, I like the breaching out, because some of this generative art, honestly, it just looks like they're all too similar. Like, a lot of
Yeah.
these projects, it's just like the same type of thing, and it's already getting repetitive and old. From the art critic and art lover that I've become over the last 18 months. This one does not do it for me. This one just feels so replicable, with all the new AI word generation, art generation tools. Like, I mean, anyone could kind of put out a phrase generator. You feed in some of the most common Instagram phrases, and anyone can recreate this. So, like, the bar to create this product feels way too low for me. People are thinking it's going to go to the min price. It's also fairly high at 700 supply. So there's some talk that this may be the lowest curated floor that we've seen, which then people are talking, does that make it a good buy? And like, are the flippers going to totally sit this one out and like reset the ecosystem? So it's going to be interesting to watch regardless.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. The 700, I'm surprised they went up. Like, it's not like the last one was super successful. So I was surprised that they went up in supply.
Yeah, so it was an interesting week. Just real quick, so there was two drops. They were both Playground and Factory, but they were both from well-known artists. So Schwimbilder dropped Aiva. It minted out around 0.9. It ran all the way to 2.8 at peak mania on, I want to say it was Wednesday, before cooling off. Still holds a 1.6, up 80% from mint. So that one's a big win. And then the Undead Wyverns from Hideo, who is also an artist with kind of a cult following. He's building a game. A lot of his sets are kind of interconnected. This one minted out, I want to say, where was it? Like 0.7, 0.8 range.
I think around 0.8, yeah.
Went to 1.6 right off the bat. As like Von Mises and a few other serious collectors got in, some people tailed. As we can see, the hype didn't last very long. It's down below, man. I think the X factor for this one was the 100 supply, which people kind of jumped on early, but now some of that hype is kind of gone, and I expect this to continue to kind of slowly decline. But if you traded it, 100% the correct way, two very profitable mints this week, which means the flippers and traders are going to be back and present in the art block scene for a bit, most likely.
Yeah, that's what's going to be interesting about this My Moon one next week, because I feel like it's not one that's going to attract too many people into it. I think if this was one that looked like it was going to smash, that'd be different. This one just happened today, right?
Yeah, this might
The
have been
scribble lines
during the show. So it minted out at 0.15, which in my morning preview, I said I didn't think it would mint out. So that's surprising.
It doesn't
to
look
me.
all that great.
And the bottom two rows on OpenSea are all below mint. So not a successful mint. I think this is an easy one where if you don't like the art, just sit these out. Bit of a healthy heat check here, for this market. Not every single thing is going to be a 5x. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I'm interested to hear more about from Maya and from some of like the more tried and true collectors on this fake it till you make it. But I'm probably going to be on the sidelines.
Do you have any thoughts on the is it Mirage Gallery, Claire Silver was pretty successful. There was like people talked about there being a lot of botting to it though, but this Mirage Gallery had curated drop that we saw some sales. There was a 33 ETH sale, I think I remember seeing. What did you think about this? Because this is like non-art blocks, but people moving to other places based off of the artist, based off the fact that it is generative art. What do you think about maybe art box competitors?
So I think this one can be attributed primarily to Claire Silver. Claire has
Just off of name.
A cult following. You know, she's a co-founder of Braindrops. Her Braindrops Genesis set holds a 3 ETH floor. She, you know, smartly priced this at 0.15 ETH. And at that low of an entry, it becomes very accessible. And then it immediately sparks, you know, more of a positive feeling, you know, from those who were generally people feel better, even if it's traders and botters, when they're able to, you know, buy something and sell it for more, or at least it appreciates in value, you know, versus someone who buys it for one and then it dips, right? So it's out of the gate holding a 1.3 ETH floor. It's higher than I expected. You know, I kind of thought it was going to be in the 0.7 to 0.8 range. I knew it would be a good mint at 0.15, but with 500 supply, you know, we already have 500 pieces from Braindrops. So her style, for anyone who's not familiar with Claire, is she does AI art. So she uses algorithms. She does the inputs, you know, curates it, and then kind of completes the set. And she goes kind of across multiple different styles, like, you know, landscape, baroque, others. I'm kind of blanking on some of the other styles she uses. But then for anyone who's following the secondary, Moderate's Art, who is kind of an infamous top-end one-of-one collector and kind of art across the board, comes in and just unloads like 100 ETH on this. Bought this piece for 33 and just like several pieces for 5, several pieces in the 4.2 range. And anyone who was able to mint and get in and had one of these pieces made some very nice profits selling the Moderate's Art. But I question how the secondary would have gone without that singular person kind of coming in and making such a big splash. But hey, that's how it happened. Moderates liked it. So all of Claire's drops are going to be heavily watched now for the future.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think she's on the list of artists that you have to keep your eye on in general. Like, recognizable name, recognizable. The PFP, I think at this point, her punk is pretty recognizable. And she's had a lot of success when she's doing drops like this. So I think the next time she does a drop, like, there's going to be tons of eyes on it. There clearly was this time, as we saw with how, you know, the whole botting issues and the fact that it's 8 to 10x from the mint price. So she's someone to keep your eye on, especially if she's one of those where, you know, we talked a little about this last week with like Grant Yoon stuff of she's one that, like, you could see these one-of-ones going for high prices. There's a lot of people that are going to consider her upper end when it comes to digital art, and she's kind of making her name for herself there. So this is a name to keep your eye on, I think. So very happy that she had a successful drop. Like, it was good to see that. I think she's one of the more positive people in this space, and it's good to see her succeed. So is there anything else that you're looking forward to or paying attention to going into this weekend?
You know, I don't think there's too much else up on the radar. Today's drops already kind of took place. Yeah. I think there's Webiverse. Some people are following that one. It's got a decent following, 50,000. That one is tomorrow. So check that. It looks like Kath Samard has an edition drop. You know, Kath, you know, the low editions are hot right now. So that's going to be one to pay attention to for sure on Sunday. But other than that, I think it's going to be an open weekend for secondary action. So I think we're going to be watching Potatoes. I'm going to be watching Ledgers. Bored and Dangerous, we haven't talked about on the show. They've been kind of up and down this week. They've seen a few sweeps. So I'm going to be watching that one as well. You know, hopefully we'll see some action. Oh, this Moonbird Spaces is also probably the event of this afternoon. So tune into that if you're bored. That's going to be a market mover for sure. But we thought it was going to be a quiet week. It was anything but quiet. it was a fun one. I'm excited for the weekend and for next week.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think that's a good way to word it. Like the stuff we talked about is probably things to keep your eye on through the weekend, how Moonbirds play out. It's always weird with the spaces because I think people buy into it beforehand and then it's like the buy the rumor, sell the news stuff where these days it's almost like everyone just sells the news no matter what it is. So except for what the potatoes did, like that they had bullish news. So I don't know, maybe it's not only off of that these days, but that'll be one to keep your eye on, at least from blue chip standpoint. Punks will be watching the Tiffany stuff. It'll be interesting to see when we're back on Monday. Like, is it going to hold? It's going to be back over 30. Is it going to be down in the 20s? Since we started, someone's already listed down to 27. So we'll see. It's crazy to me that people are just ready to eat 10% loss on that in hours. So, all right. Well, I think we covered most of it. If anyone has questions, you can leave them in the comments or reach out to us on Twitter at Dog Sherman, at Tyler_did_it, and let us know if there's topics that you want us to talk about on Monday that maybe we don't normally talk about. So you brought up there with the calf simmered, like we don't get into photography NFTs too much. We get into some of the art block stuff, generative. But if she has a successful job, like we might get into that a little bit. So let us know, and we'll catch you guys back here on Monday.